What? Fucking shit. Hi, it's Rob Bowron with Sharp College Football, and we banged into this a little bit. Welcome back to the Saturday Six. I am so excited. This is a great week for college football. We have excellent games on tap. I mean, I joked around, and I think everyone sort of made the point that last week wasn't like the most exciting week ever in college football history. But that's on the face of it, and of course, some of the games ended up being close. This week, of course, has some great games on tap. It's just going to stick up. Some great games on the schedule just to start with. Of course, headlined by Ohio State at Notre Dame. But on top of that, we will also have the same close, unexpectedly close games that we'll all tune in and watch. This week we are closing in on one of my favorite times of the year, which is where we drop the preseason data. Currently, what you're going to see for beta rank and for most advanced stat systems, you are going to see a good amount of preseason weight in to help both normalize what the numbers look like as well as sort of weight them towards expectations. Beta rank's only built on FBS versus FBS games, so we only have 2 games in for a lot of teams. This week we'll start to make, take the steps towards where we will be with at least enough games where the numbers are a little bit more normalized. Anyway, I'm really excited. If this is your first time tuning in, we're going to run through 6 games. I'm going to spend 5 minutes a game. I have a timer. I try to stick to it. These games are going to be previewed from an advanced stats perspective. So if you're not familiar, Beta Rank's an advanced stat system built on the same data provided to the College Football Playoff Committee. I get drive level data on every game in college football, both FCS and FBS. FCS ranking should be coming out in 2 weeks. But yeah, like everything you're going to see is at least controlling for opponent and field position and tempo. Occasionally they're controlling for more, and I'll call that out. But I'm excited to walk through what some of these teams are good at, what they're not. Some of these numbers are going to adjust still as more data comes in, particularly when we talk about like the unit rankings, like what the offenses and defenses are good at. Those do have some data in from last season that is providing some normalcy, sort of like providing a decent base, so that the data doesn't end up in wild places. But this will be the first week on the Saturday 6 where we aren't just using last year's data, and where we are using a combination of this year's data and a significantly downweighted bit of last year's data as well. I could not be more excited for this week of college football. There's some really good games where we're going to figure out more about some of these teams too, as we get into it. And some of these teams have not, even some of the teams that have won big games already did not play great last week. And I'm going to be interested to see how they do this week in particular. So let's go ahead and hop in. First game on the docket is Ohio State and Notre Dame. I'm actually going to be at this game. If you see someone extremely tall, wandering around looking lost, that is undoubtedly me. Anyway, Ryan Day is your head coach for Ohio State. Marcus Freeman's your head coach for Notre Dame. This Buckeye offense is also called by day. Al Golden is your defensive coordinator for Notre Dame, although I'm sure Marcus Freeman has some input. Offensively, the Buckeyes are doing fairly well this season, number 3 overall in beta rank. They're not at the level that they were sort of in 2019 when Ryan Day was calling the offense. His first season as the head coach was far and away their best offensive season. They haven't quite gotten back to those numbers since. They're number 6 overall in drive efficiency right now. They're doing a really good job putting together long drives, sustaining them to put up points. Number 4 in explosive drives. This is an extremely explosive offense still. Number 2 overall in play efficiency. So this is controlling for explosive, your yards per play. It's the least important of the core 4 beta rank metrics, but they're quite good at it. And then avoiding 3 and outs, avoiding turnovers, negative drives. They do a really good job avoiding those things. Now what's interesting, and I sort of talked about in previewing with the Buckeyes, or almost whenever I talk about the Buckeyes offense, that 2019 offense was a run-first offense. Ryan Day's background is, of course, with Chip Kelly as a bit of a mentor coaching tree. He hired, Chip Kelly's offensive line coach from UCLA to be his offensive line coach at Ohio State to try to clean up some of the offensive line play that had slipped in recent years. But it's interesting to see this really big run pass split for them. That 2019 Buckeye offense was an incredible rushing offense. And it doesn't look as if they've really been able to put it together running the football again. I'm interested to see how this split continues over the season. Kyle McCord's your starting quarterback, 69.7% completion percentage, 10.7 per. The QB controversy's over. It's McCord going forward. Defensively, Notre Dame, they really need to improve off of where they were last year, and I don't think they've quite done it yet. Number 43 overall right now in beta rank. They're going to need this number to climb significantly as the season rolls on. Teams have been able to put together long drives against them. Number 66 overall in drive efficiency. Number 44 in containing explosive drives. And again, a lot of there is some weighted data in from last season here as well with these numbers. Notre Dame's defense really struggled last season, and they do look significantly improved. The question in this game is, of course, is going to be by how much. And they really do need, in this year in particular, to force more negative drives, more 3 and outs, more turnovers. No big run pass split. I'm really excited to see this side of the ball in particular and see where the Irish defense sits. You flip it around, however, and I just got a puppy and it's looking at itself in the mirror and it's very confused. Number 16 overall in beta rank right now. This is an improvement over where they were under Tommy Rees. Tommy Rees now at Alabama, not a great. Oh no, you're hearing that dog. Oscar, come here, Oscar. Number 16 overall in drive efficiency. They do a pretty good job being able to put together long drives to put up points. 23 overall in explosive drives. This is a number to keep an eye on. They're going to need to find a way to put up big plays against Ohio State and in all likelihood to stay in this game. 24 in play efficiency. They do a decent job outside of explosives sustaining their yards per play. Number 29 in negative drives. They do a decent job here. This is something to keep an eye on. They need to avoid 3 and outs, avoid turnovers. Offensive effective rush versus effective pass. Oh my gosh. All right. You are going to have to hush. All right. So 23 in effective pass. This is significantly improved over where they've been the last couple seasons. Sam Hartman has done a terrific job here. Look, I didn't think the Jared Parker hire was a terrific hire. He didn't last as West Virginia's offensive coordinator, but they didn't. They struck out on Andy Ludwig, and this is where they ended up. Thus far, they've outperformed expectations. That's certainly a really good thing if you're a Notre Dame fan. They're going to get to find out, though, where they sit. Jim Knowles has this defense trending in the right direction. They certainly made improvement last year. Number 7 overall in defensive beta rank right now. They do a pretty good job with drive efficiency, finding ways to avoid giving up long drives, avoid giving up points. They do a good job in containing explosive drives, number 8 overall here. Play efficiency, they struggle a little bit at number 29 overall. giving up a little bit too much on the yards per play outside of explosives, but they do a really good job forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers, number 2 overall in negative drives. This is going to be a really good test for this Buckeye defense, which the Buckeyes do need to have improve over where they've been the last couple seasons. This was the reason that they fell off from 2019 primarily, was they weren't able to really replace Jeff Hafley. Knowles was a terrific hire. I'm really excited to see where this defense goes this season. This should be a really good matchup for us to help tell us where Ohio State's defense is for the rest of the year. All right, Ole Miss at Alabama. Lane Kiffin's your head coach for Ole Miss, of course. But Nick Saban's your head coach for Alabama. Offensively, Alabama, they've fallen off the pace of where they were last season. I thought this was going to happen when Tommy Rees was hired as your offensive coordinator. You knew what you were going to get, basically. Their drive efficiency numbers not great, 23 overall in drive efficiency. They're struggling a little bit comparatively to be able to put together long drives to put up points. 15 overall in explosive drives. They are still a fairly explosive offense, though that all of these numbers are ones that are going to need to improve if they're going to want to be a top 10 offense this season, which for all of Bill O'Brien's faults, and he wasn't Steve Sarkisian, and that, few of us are as offensive play callers. He was at least a top 10 offense last season. They're number 3 overall in effective rush. They have really, really struggled throwing the football around. 76 in effective pass. And they struggle. They give up too many 3 and outs, too many turnovers. Number 24 overall in negative drives. Now, their quarterback and Jalen Milroe is back in the cockpit after a horrendous performance by pretty much everyone not named Jalen Milroe last week against South Florida. He's currently sitting at a 60% completion percentage, 10 yards exactly on the nose per. Pete Golding's your defensive coordinator for Ole Miss. There's still a decent amount of last year's numbers weighted in here that are keeping them at 55. I expect this defense is going to be significantly better under Golding. And they weren't great last season. There's certainly room for them to improve. This, I think, was a really good hire for Kiffin. Golding did a very good job with the Alabama defense. I think maybe you could argue was a little unfairly scapegoated. Though they still need to improve on drive efficiency overall, finding ways to get off the field and avoid giving up points. Their offense is pretty good, so they should have a lot of field to work with, though they might not in this game in particular. 63 in explosive drives. You can put up big plays against them. That's something Golding's certainly going to have to clean up. 49 overall in negative drives. They need to force more 3 and outs, force more turnovers. They don't have a really big run pass split. I think what's going to be interesting in this game, given what Alabama's offensive struggles, are they able to shut down the run in this game? That's going to be something to keep an eye on as we watch here. I do expect Milroe to have a pretty good game. We'll see. This might be a Nick Saban goes back tabula rasa on the offensive staff at the end of the season. Flip it over, and this is an interesting conversation to be had. Charlie Weiss Jr. not pair, but Fee. Is your offensive coordinator for Ole Miss. They're 11 overall in beta rank. They're a little less efficient than they are explosive. Number 21 overall in drive efficiency. That's not too bad. Certainly a number you'd like to see them pick up. You don't always have to have a trade-off. The very best offenses in college football don't have a trade-off between efficiency and explosiveness. Some do, though. Phil Longo sort of runs like the all home runs offense. Number 6 overall in play efficiency. They do a good job outside of explosives, maintaining their yards per play, and they avoid 3 and outs extremely well. What's interesting here, I think this season, is a little bit flipped from the offenses that they've run in years past, which have been a little more run heavy. Number 65 in effective rush. Number 5 in effective pass, relying on Jackson Dart more in the early season. I'm interested to see if that carries forward. They run sort of like a version of the Briles offense that does emphasize running the football really well. I'm interested to see where that shakes out for them this season, if they continue to look to throw the football as much as they have so far this season. Jackson Dart is your quarterback for Ole Miss. 77% completion 66.2% completion percent. 77% would be astounding. 66.2 completion percentage, 12.5 per. You flip it around, and there's an interesting conversation this week. Of course, Lane Kiffin's stirring the pot with who's really calling the plays for Alabama. It might be Travaris Robinson, who's a terrific defensive coordinator on that last Alabama staff before Shane Beamer took over. Underrated guy on the Alabama staff instead of Kevin Steele. They sit at number 8 overall right now in beta rank. They're number 17 in drive efficiency. You can put together drives to put up points to get them. They're doing a really good job containing big plays at number 3 overall in explosive drives. And there is some trade-off. We talk about this a little bit in beta rank, that some teams of late have been doing a little bit more of a trade-off to contain big plays. They're willing to give up some efficiency. They're number 11 overall in negative drives. They do a decent job forcing 3-and-outs, forcing turnovers. What's interesting here, and something to keep an eye on, particularly as we talk about how Ole Miss generally likes to run the football, although they aren't this season, is Alabama's run-pass split. Number 28 in effective rush versus number 5 in effective pass. Ole Miss might be able to run the football a little bit in this game. It's something to certainly keep an eye on. We've got Alabama 77% win probability at home, 8.34. I forgot to mention we've got Ohio State 87% win probability on the road and 14.1. Notre Dame just hasn't. They look a lot better than they have last year. We just don't have enough data to bump them up necessarily thus far. We might after this game. Florida State at Clemson. This should be a really, really good, interesting game. Another, great game on the schedule here. Mike Norvell is your head coach for Florida State. Of course, Dabo Swinney is your head coach for Clemson. Norvell's also your offensive play caller here for Florida State. One of the better offensive play callers in the game of college football these days. And really for the first year, I think, and maybe, his entire tenure in Tallahassee, he's got the offensive players to actually match his play calling ability. So I'm interested to see what the ceiling is for him this season. Wes Goodwin's your defensive play caller for Clemson. Florida State's offense is number 6 overall in beta rank currently. They do a really good job, although there is some room for improvement to improve that drive efficiency number at number 14 overall. They're extremely explosive, number 3 overall on explosive drives. They do a really good job scheming up big plays. Number 8 in play efficiency, number 4 in negative drives. Great job avoiding 3-and-outs, avoiding turnovers, not letting the defense do bad things to you. They have a decent run pass split. It's not too much, but it's definitely one to keep an eye on. Jordan Travis has improved as a passer. He's at 64.3% completion percentage, 8.7 per. I'm really excited to see him against another good defense, and this FSU offense against another good defense. This Clemson defense under Goodwin sits at number 11 overall in beta rank. Like we talked about, there is often some trade-off in modern college football that defenses choose to make between being able to contain big plays and being able to slow down efficient drives. Clemson has traded off to be able to slow down big plays a little bit more. Number 27 overall in drive efficiency. You can, with this defense, get some stuff underneath to be able to sustain a drive. You just have to be good enough to sustain a drive. Number 8 overall in play efficiency. They do a good job limiting yards per play outside of explosives. Number 16 in negative drives. The best Clemson defenses under Venables were excellent at all of these metrics. I'm interested to see where their drive efficiency numbers sit after we get some more data in, as well as their negative drives. You'd expect Clemson to normally have these in the top 10 for both of them. Not a big run pass split, 17 in effective rush, 11 in effective pass. This should be a terrific matchup on this side of the field. You flip it around, it gets interesting. So Clemson's offense, I personally was expecting them to improve more with Garrett Riley at the helm. He, of course, was the offensive coordinator for TCU last season. I thought this was a terrific hire for Swinney, going out onto the market and getting one of the better offensive coordinators that would have been available, while other programs really struggled. But they're also struggling so far this season. Number 29 in drive efficiency. They are struggling to put together long drives to put up points. What's killing them the most, though, is the lack of explosiveness. Number 49 overall in explosive drives. That's a really bad number for a Power 5 offense, particularly anybody that's recruited as well as Clemson has. Number 42 in play efficiency. They struggle outside of explosives to maintain their yards per play, and 37 in negative drives. Just too many 3-and-outs, too many turnovers. They do have a decent run pass split, and that's not a good reflection considering the all-world 5-star quarterback they have there. 32 in effective rush, 51 in effective pass. They're really struggling to throw the football around this season. Cade Klubnik is your quarterback, 66% completion percentage, 66.4, but only 6.5 per. If you've noticed to this point, we're often talking about quarterbacks that are at least above 8 yards per completion. Some of them are into double digits per completion, all the way back at 6.5 per. That is not a good sign for this offense at all. They're struggling to get the ball down the field. They get a Florida State defense that had a really, really bad game last week. They had a good game against LSU. They had a horrible game last week against Boston College, who offensively is basically the Iowa of the ACC. They gave up a ton of big plays to BC last week. They sit at number 49 overall right now. That's a bad Power 5 defense. They were at 25-ish last season. They really needed to improve this year. We'll see if that was a blip against Boston College or whether that was a real problem that they have. Number 56 in drive efficiency, 47 in explosive drives. Neither of these numbers are particularly good, and they need to improve for them. 48 in play efficiency. Their best number so far is negative drives, forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. They have a decent run pass split, 29 in effective rush, 56 in effective pass. You can throw the football against them. So far, that was what Boston College did. I'm interested to see this here because Florida State definitely needs to have a rebound game. Clemson has been absolutely scuffling along on the offensive side of the football. They need to be like, for Florida State to make a believer out of me after the performance that they had last week on the defensive side of the football. They need to really be able to shut this Clemson offense, which has been struggling, down. If Clemson's going to have a get right game, I'm not saying Florida State's a pushover, but this would be a game to do it. Florida State certainly has the talent on the defensive side of the football, and they did have a pretty good game against LSU. You'd like to see them, if Clemson's going to be able to get it right, this might be a good place to start. Oh, we've got FSU at 57% win probability, 1.99. Basically 2 points. This is a really great game. We've got UCLA at Utah. Utah, of course, is coached by Kyle Whittingham. UCLA is coached by Chip Kelly. Andy Ludwig's your offensive coordinator for Utah. Chip Kelly, of course, or I'm sorry, Danton Lynn is your new defensive coordinator for UCLA, and they've shown some improvement thus far this season on the defensive side of the football. We'll see if that carries forward. When this game opened, it opened at either 7 or 8 points, depending on what book you were looking at, what opening line. That told a lot of people expect Cam Rising to play. Otherwise, I find that opening line very surprising, given how these teams have played thus far in the short season. This dog. Utah's offense is number 20 overall in beta rank so far, but I think that some of this is buoyed by the prior season data holding them up. They've struggled so far this season in big ways. Number 5 overall in drive, 35 overall in drive efficiency. They've struggled to sustain long drives to put up points. 27 in explosive drives. Their play efficiency numbers decent. Number 13 overall in play efficiency. Number 14 overall in explosive drives. They've had to rely on big plays and in a lot of cases to be able to put up points. Nate Johnson has been the quarterback, and he is a runner. They're at number 5 in effective rush, number 85 in effective pass. They really needed Johnson to come in and force defenses to play zone against them, to be able to open things up in the passing game, forcing teams to really keep an eye on Johnson in order to, and that has opened things up for them. Defensively, UCLA has made Nate Johnson's at 68.8 completion percentage, 8.8 per. Getting really to take advantage, though, of how teams have adjusted to when he has run the football, because he's an excellent athlete. And I think I don't want to knock him as a passer. It's just they're not relying on them for that now. You can tell by the run-pass split. UCLA's defense has made significant improvement over where they were last season. They are, however, at 90 overall in drive efficiency. You can put together drives against this defense to put up points, but like we talked about, they have sacrificed a little bit in efficiency, or a lot in efficiency, in order to contain big plays. Number 18 overall in drive efficiency. They do a decent job outside of explosives, limiting their yards per play. And they're pretty good, not great, but pretty good at negative drives, forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. They have a decent run pass split. That's going to be kind of exciting. I like UCLA's front 7. I don't like their back end very much. However, Utah is not very well set up to exploit what UCLA is not good at on the defensive side of the football. They're not a great passing team. That's going to make this really interesting to see. I'm really interested to see, even with Rising back, if he's sharp and who he's got available for catching the football out there. It's going to be this, like I said, like this should be a pretty good matchup on this side of the ball too. Although it might not be all that exciting if either Rising can't play or Utah is not able to get it going running the football. You flip it around. This is a really, really fun matchup. UCLA sits at number 7 overall in beta rank currently on the offensive side of the football. Chip Kelly's your play caller here. They do a really good job sustaining long drives to be able to put up points. Number 10 overall in explosive drives. They've been a really explosive offense as well. They sit at number 5 in play efficiency. So outside of explosives, they do a good job maintaining yards per play. Number 8 in negative drives. Not a lot of 3 and outs, not a lot of shorts. Now, neither of these teams has, I mean, now Utah has played Florida. TBD on what we think about Florida still, but UCLA has not played the world's greatest competition up to this point. This is going to be their best game, I think, that they're going to have so far by a long shot. They have a big run pass split so far. Number 2 in effective rush, 55 in effective pass. Dante Moore is the quarterback here, 62.7% completion percentage, 12.1 per. They're not relying on him a lot. This is Chip Kelly's run off, really, I mean, and he has one of the best run schemes in all of college football. That's what they're relying on up to this point. Morgan Scalley is your defensive coordinator for the Utes, number 3 overall in beta rank currently. This is their highest ranking they've had in a long time. I would say I'm interested to see if this holds up over the season. They haven't. They faced a Florida team that looked utterly incompetent and tried to run the football against them. Now, Florida was successful at running the football against Tennessee. We'll see how this shakes out. They're number 2 overall in drive efficiency right now. They do a good job using the field to their advantage, finding ways to get off the field and avoiding giving up points, but they are susceptible to big plays. 28 overall in explosive drives. That's something to keep an eye on here. If UCLA can, even if they don't get the run game going to the level that they're used to, if they're able to key it up to be able to get some big chunk plays in the passing game, this is an opportunity for them to be able to put up some points. 14 overall in play efficiency. Utah does a really good job at number 5 in negative drives, forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. They're a green dog team. Keep an eye on the linebacker that has the back as a responsibility for coverage. If that back doesn't go out on a passing route and stays in to block, that linebacker is going to blitz. Number 3 in effective rush. Utah's excellent at run defense. You saw that against Florida. They were able to largely shut down Florida's run game in the way Tennessee was not. They have struggled, however, in the past couple seasons in defending the pass. They haven't played the world's greatest bunch of offenses up to this point. I'm really interested to see where this shakes out. I think they're a lot more vulnerable, in fact, against the pass than this number reflects right now. We've got Utah with a 72% win probability and also 7 points, but I think a lot of that is baked in of the projection still. I would not at all be surprised if UCLA won this game. This is a great game. And again, there's still some, like for Wazoo, there's still some preseason projection in here. They weren't projected to be a top 25 team. Jonathan Smith is your head coach for Oregon State. Jake Dicker's your head coach for Washington State. Offensively, Brian Lindgren is your offensive coordinator for Oregon State. Jeff Schmedding is your defensive coordinator for Washington State. Offensively, the Beavers are really good this season, significantly improved over where they were last year. They're number 7 overall in drive efficiency. They do a really good job putting together long drives to be able to put up points. They're number 14 overall in explosive drives. I'm interested to see where this one shakes out over the entire season. They're not necessarily, last season, they were not necessarily the most explosive team in college football. And I don't necessarily know that they have like the world's greatest playmakers, particularly at the outside, to be able to put up a ton of big plays, but I think they have the offensive line to be a very efficient offense. 20 overall in play efficiency. Outside of explosives, they're doing a pretty good job being able to put up their yards per play. 17 in negative drives. They do a good job avoiding 3 and outs, avoiding turnovers. This is the last season, this offense is in the 30s. This is a significant improvement over where they were. Number 12 in effective rush and 35 in effective pass. This is a great split for them. They're not asking DJU to go out there and win the games for them. They're asking him to work within the system, work with the running game. Jim Mahalchek's their offensive line coach, probably the best in the business. Anyway, DJ Uiagalelei is I can almost read my handwriting, 61.8% completion percentage, 9.3 per. Defensively, Washington State, this is a I don't want to undersell this. It's really hard to put together a really good defense in Pullman. Dickert has done a good job with that. They're at number 36 overall right now. That's a pretty good number for them. They do a really good job at drive efficiency. They find ways to get off the field and avoid giving up points. But they have given up some big plays so far this season. 68 overall on explosive drives, 64 in play efficiency. You can tell that you can get some yards against them. What they also do a good job is finding ways to get off the field. 36 in negative drives. They do a good job forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. They're going to have to do a really good job at the Beavs limiting overall efficiency and finding ways to force some 3 and outs, force some turnovers. 49 overall in effective rush, 31 in effective pass. That's going to be an interesting one to see here. Wisconsin was able to move the ball decently against them and then shot themselves in the foot repeatedly with turnovers. The Beavs are also going to look to run the ball against them and should be able to put up some yards. It'll be interesting to see because DJU can probably get a few more yards in the passing game than Wisconsin was able to. You flip it around. Offensively, Washington State's made strides under new offensive coordinator Ben Arbuckle. They're at number 11 overall in drive efficiency. They do a pretty good job putting together long drives to put up points. Now, they're struggling a little bit with explosive drives, 47 here. That's certainly something that they'll need to improve over the season if they want this number to climb up. I don't expect them to get much better at drive efficiency than they are right now. 80 overall in play efficiency. They're not doing a great job outside of explosives, sustaining the yards per play. They do a decent, no, let's not get ourselves. This is a bad number for a Power 5 team. Avoiding 3 and outs, avoiding turnovers, too many 3 and outs, too many turnovers. The biggest thing that they could do to improve their number is improving this. Avoid 3 and outs, avoid turnovers. Now they have a huge run pass split. We shouldn't be surprised at that with Arbuckle coming over. Cam Ward's the quarterback. He looks much more comfortable than he did last season. Last season, I was really skeptical of Ward was going to make it at the FBS level. This year he looks much more comfortable. The offense, I think, and the offensive play calling is just far better than they were operating last year. Now, the Beavers, I'm not sure that they're number 4 overall in beta rank, but they were a very, very good defense last season. There's still some last season data weighted in here. They haven't played, like I said, like you could say a lot of it, they haven't played a murderer's row yet, so I'm interested to see how good they are. I don't think that they're I would be surprised if they're a top 10 defense again in beta rank. But I would be shocked if they fell all the way out of like the top 20 or top 25 defenses in college football. Trent Bray is your defensive coordinator here. He's done a terrific job since taking over. They're number 1 overall in drive efficiency in beta rank. They do a really good job finding ways to get off the field, avoid giving up points. They do a really good job containing big plays too. Number 5 overall in explosive drives. 17 overall in play efficiency. This is a pretty good number for them. They find ways to limit the yards per play outside of explosives. Where they're struggling so far this season, and something to keep an eye on, they're struggling to force 3 and outs, force some turnovers. That's going to be something to keep an eye on this game. Can they confuse Cam Ward at all? Keep him under pressure. They've been excellent at stopping the run. That's not going to help you a lot in this game. And they've been pretty good against the pass. They have a lot of new faces in the secondary, though. That's something to keep an eye on. They're going to need to get pressure on Ward and be able to confuse him with the looks. We've got this. Cam Ward's a 72% completion percentage, 9.3 per. We've got this at Oregon State, 81% win probability and almost exactly 10 points, 9.99. I think Washington State has a good win against Wisconsin. A little bit wind dated, turnover rated, though. I should say not necessarily wind dated. They did have the turnover wind at their back. Let's put it that way in that game against Wisconsin. I'm interested to see this game. I think Oregon State is the better and more complete team right now. But if they turn the ball over once or twice, this game could very much go against them. This should be a really fun one. Definitely one to tune in for. This is a great game. I'm really excited for this one. I feel like anytime I actually get on the Air Force bandwagon, they implode. So I'm going to stay off of the Air Force bandwagon coming into the season. But I think they're a really fun team to keep an eye on. I hope I didn't jinx them just by saying that. Troy Calhoun is your head coach for Air Force. This game's on Friday. So we're not doing anything late Friday. This is what you'll be watching. Brent Brennan is your head coach for San Jose State. This offense for Air Force is really good so far. This is a very good group of 5 offense, number 37 overall in beta rank. They like a lot of service academy offenses are excellent at efficiency and not great at explosiveness. Number 9 overall in drive efficiency. They do a really good job putting together long drives to put up points. They don't rely on explosive plays for a lot of that. 70 overall in play efficiency, though. You'd like to see them increase that number, be able to put up more in their yards per play outside of explosives. But like, I mean, they are 3.5 yards in a cloud of dust. 32 overall in negative drives. They do a really good job avoiding 3 and outs, avoiding turnovers. Number 1 in effective rush and number 133 in effective pass. You know what's coming. They get a San Jose State defense that's 86 overall. That's not a bad number for a group of 5 team, to be honest, but this is going to be a really significant challenge for them. 100 overall in drive efficiency. They struggle to contain drives and use the field to their advantage. You can get big plays against them, although I wouldn't expect Air Force to get a tremendous number of big plays against them. Number 49 in drive efficiency. They do a decent job outside of explosives, limiting big plays. And number 60 overall in negative drives. They do a decent job forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. That's probably their bread and butter. That's tough to do against Air Force. They're going to need to find ways to get off the field here. Number 11 and 111 in effective rush. That's a bad sign. Now, look, it's early in the season. Some of these splits are going to change as we get more more data against different opponents. San Jose State has played Oregon State, who runs the ball extremely well already this season. It's a bit problematic. 62 in effective pass. Air Force is not going to try to burn you with the pass. Now, Mike Thiessen's your offensive coordinator for Air Force. I forgot to mention Derek Odom is your defensive coordinator for San Jose State. Zach Larrier is your quarterback for Air Force. He's got a 60% completion percentage, 19.3 per. Yeah, I mean, he's picking his spots to take his shots. He's got 220 yards on the ground so far and 5.12 per carry. Of course, that's important with Air Force. How much is not his yards per attempt, but his yards per carry. This will be an interesting matchup on the other side of the football. This is not a bad number for a group of 5 offense at 86 overall. Now, they struggle a little bit with drive efficiency, sustaining long drives to put up points. Kevin McGivern is your offensive coordinator here. They are a more explosive offense, number 80 overall in explosive drives. Number 79 in play efficiency. Outside of explosives, they do a decent job limiting yards per play. Now, what they do a really good job of is avoiding 3 and outs, avoiding turnovers. Look, they've had a really tough schedule. I'm interested to see the San Jose State team against another group of 5 team. They're 73 in effective rush, 82 in effective pass. Chevon Cordero, the former Hawaii quarterback, is your quarterback here. 59.1 completion percentage, 5.9 per. Those numbers are going to get better as he plays more group of 5 competition. Now, this is a really good defensive number for Air Force, 58 overall. Brian Knorr, formerly of Navy, I believe, is your defensive coordinator for Air Force. They're at 75 overall drive efficiency. They do a pretty good job finding ways to get off the field, not giving up points. That's important when you're in Air Force defense. They are at 69 in explosive drives. They do an all right job comparatively, finding ways to not give up big plays. 36 in play efficiency. This is far and away their best number outside of explosives. They do a good job limiting yards per play. And 43 in negative drives. They do a good job forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. They're at 48 in effective rush, 71 in effective pass. Something to keep an eye on. The service academies often struggle to put together secondaries with enough athleticism to really cover other college football teams. I'm interested to see what kind of day Cordero has here, whether they can throw the ball around a little more effectively than they have up to this point. Like I said, San Jose State has mostly faced some pretty tough competition so far. This is going to, even though Air Force is a very good group of 5 team, this will feel like a little bit of a let up from who they've been playing up to this point. We've got Air Force with a 60% win probability on the road, 2.88, almost 3 points. This should be a great game. Definitely tune in if you can. I know it's going to be late on a Friday. I live on East Coast time. This should be a great game. You should definitely tune in and watch it. And that's it. We did it. Through a very small puppy finding himself in the mirror and barking at himself, we managed to get through this one alive. This should be a great week for college football. Tune into all these games, tune into all the games. And I'm excited not just for this week to get done, because now we'll have 3 games in for most teams in college football. For some teams, we'll even have 4 games in of FBS competition. But we'll get close to being to the point where we can start to actually remove the preseason projections, and we'll have a much better idea of where these teams are going to be just with in-season data. That's always the most exciting part for me. Anyway, let's close it up. You can find all the stats you just saw and a whole lot more at sharpcollegefootball.com. You can find me, Rob Bowron, at BetaRankFB or at Sharp College Football. We have a Pac-12 podcast at 12 Pack Radio. You can find all the back episodes of that at sharpcollegefootball.com /12